Welcome back to Mac's Garage. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like, share, subscribe. It helps me out. I appreciate that. So today I'm going to be putting this piece of metal on this 1998 Dodge Ram 1500. So this is a Synergy Manufacturing track bar conversion bracket. So the way it mounts up, we've got a hole here. This is actually going to bolt into the factory location where the factory track bar mounts up. This will be on the frame, this will be on the cross member, and then the new 3rd gen style, which is really a 2003 to 2013. So some of the 4th gens as well. That style track bar will bolt up. Now the track bar difference, this is a 2nd gen style track bar. So we have a ball and socket joint here, which allows this to move around. This joint is a problem. I've had these go bad in as little as 5,000 miles. The one that's on this truck has less than 20,000 for sure. I think around 10,000, and I haven't put a camera under it. I haven't looked at it. But based on the steering wheel position, I pretty well guaranteed that joint is bad in this track bar as well. The 3rd and early 4th gen track bar, instead of having that ball and socket joint at this end, this is the style of joint you have in that spot, which is simply just a rubber bushing. Rubber bushings don't really go bad. I mean, they do. Rubber bushings will last a very long time. We've got one on each end. This is actually a Mopar factory track bar for a 2012 Power Wagon. Now that is an off-road package truck. This track bar is a track bar for also a 2012 Ram 2500 that has the regular suspension. The difference between the off-road package and the nut, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but I would say it's roughly 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. The off-road one is a little bit longer. Now, what that does is it will actually, the longer track bar will shove the axle further to the passenger side. So this truck has probably about 3 inches of front lift. That might be, the off-road one might be about right. The regular one might be about right. I don't really know. I won't know until I put it in. I'm probably going to put the off-road one in first. And you'll also notice that I'm using a factory style sway bar or track bar. I keep saying sway bar. I'm not going to talk about sway bar at all. If I say sway bar and I didn't catch it, I meant track bar. But the factory style track bar is not adjustable. So if you get one from Synergy Manufacturing, it's adjustable somewhere in here. Pretty much all the aftermarket ones are adjustable somewhere. I don't want that. There are a couple of them that are okay, and I don't remember who makes what ones, but some of them will have, there's a bunch of things I don't like about the factory ones. There's a bunch of things I don't like about the aftermarket ones, and that's why I'm going with the factory ones. So the adjustment, most of them use almost like a heavy duty version of a tie rod sleeve that spins in and out and lengthens and shortens the track bar. I don't like that. I think it's weak. Some of them have a large diameter bar threaded with a jam nut. Those seem fine. That is the style of adjustment that I would like. But most of those use a Haim or a Johnny style joint rather than a rubber bushing, which I'm not off-road. I live in an area with a lot of moisture and a lot of salt. Now granted, this truck does not get driven in the winter, but I don't like things that rust up and get crappy, and that's what Johnny joints and Haim joints do. I would very much like to avoid putting those on anything I own. So hopefully one of the 2 factory track bars puts it in the right spot, and honestly it's a 1/4 inch difference, so it's not a huge amount either one. And right now this truck with the factory track bar is pretty far off to the driver's side. If you look at it from the front, the axle is shifted driver. That's because it's gone up with the factory track bar, which pulls the axle to the driver's side. I think that's enough of that. I'm going to show you, I'll show you on the steering wheel. I will show you on the steering wheel how you can kind of guess that your track bar is bad. I'll also put the camera up underneath there, and hopefully you'll be able to watch this joint jump around. If it doesn't, I won't include that, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see it, and I'm pretty sure this one's bad. So let's get on to that. Inside the truck here, this is what my steering wheel more or less looks like going straight down the road. When I started out, the wheel was straight ahead to go straight, and as time has passed, it's kind of crept over to this side. That is pretty much a dead giveaway that these second gen Rams need a track bar. As it wears, I don't know which way it goes, but it causes you to have to steer the wheel this way to correct for the track bar slop. It also makes the thing really sloppy, which these have enough other issues that sucks. So with that said, let's get under the truck. Okay, so up under the truck, this the suspension is totally on the ground. This joint right here is the track bar joint. This is the frame bracket. This is the joint in here. I'm going to get in the truck, steer the steering wheel back and forth, which you will be able to see on this joint here, which is the pitman arm. So as that moves side to side, this joint is likely going to jump up and down if I had to guess. I won't even know if it does that until after I look at this video, but we'll go ahead and do that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to jump around. Now to pull this track bar, I usually start with this joint here. Go in through the driver's fender well. That's not seated very well, but it shouldn't be very tight. So let's see. Oh, so pull that nut off. That is a tapered seat suspension type joint. So it doesn't just fall apart. I'm going to hit it right about here with a hammer. That should drive it down. I believe the way the suspension is with this one lifted, it should actually pull it out, but I'm not gonna have a camera there when I do this, so I'll disconnect this. Ultimately, you can kind of smack straight down on that as well, because you're not gonna reuse it. But let's give it a shot. I'll hit here with the hammer and probably come apart. So now that I've got that side broke loose, it's still in there a little bit, but it's broke loose. This joint here is an 18 millimeter. I just realized this swivel socket's not going to work. In fact, I'm probably going to have to take this one out by hand with the style of steering. So I have the T linkage style steering is what a lot of people call it. This would be the heavy duty style. So instead of being a Y link where this bar goes all the way to that knuckle, and then the other one ties in somewhere up around there on that bar and goes over to the other side. This one has a straight bar between the two. I have a video on that. I'll try to link it right here. Not sure if that'll work or not, but there might be a link to that in the corner. So with the track bar out of the way, now we'll come around on the back side of this cross member here. There is one bolt that holds the brake line up to the cross member, and I didn't clean around it good enough, but we'll pull this out and kind of, as long as your line's in good shape, we'll just slide it back to the back a little bit, and then we'll test fit this bracket. Now, Synergy comes with this nice tapered washer. We're going to slide that up into the frame. These are 5/8 fine thread bolt with a washer, and we're just going to put this on and kind of snug it up to get the bracket into position so we can mark to drill holes. All right, so with this, I've got just the one bolt in. This side fits up pretty decent. This tab will come in a little bit when I drill that hole and bolt it down. That is close, but there's an air gap all the way through it, so I don't need to do any grinding. The only spot that's kind of questionable is out here, but this is a pretty long bar that doesn't do any directional support. So I think once I get the other two bolted up, that should probably pull back into this cross member without any real issues. In fact, yeah, look at how much I can bend it by hand. So that'll come back in. I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to take a center punch and drill these holes. One of the brackets is actually going to drop in through this hole in the frame. So let's get started. Hey, come on. There it goes. All right. While drilling the holes here, I came up with two things I'm not real crazy about. One, this hole is super close to this hole. It'd be nice if, I guess I can't really move it because it starts to angle, but this is the bracket that you'll use to do that, and it's in a good spot. So I guess whatever, that'll be fine. The other thing that I'm not super crazy about is this is the front side of the cross member. Notice there's holes in it because they go all the way through to the back side where it bolts on. I'm not crazy about having this space with no spacer there, but again, it'll probably be fine. One, because it's thin, two, because it's heavy, and three, because it's a 3/8 bolt, so it's only going to torque to like 28 foot-pounds or something like that. So it'll probably be okay. Just would rather do that a little bit different. The reality is that there is a weld-on option for this that I'm not using that would take care of all my concerns with the drilled holes. I think the drilled holes way is going to be okay, but the welding, if you're a good welder, might be a little bit better. In first, the cone type washer with the cone facing up goes in next. All right, where is that? There it is. Now this one, I'm not sure if I can actually get this washer on here or not. I didn't really think so. So I'm gonna put the nut on and go make a flat side on this washer because it's a little bit tight here. So I'm gonna flatten out one side of this washer so it can fit up next to this bracket. On the bottom, so I didn't need to flatten that one out. I am going to use a little bit of blue Loctite on every connection though. So I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite here. Then I'll kind of get this one, and honestly I'm going to tighten these two up before I go to the other side. So I'm just going to do that off camera because this is going to take a second to get everything kind of lined up and Loctited the way that I want to. I'm going to use probably a 15/16, just the right size on the top and bottom of this. Snug it up. They want you to go bolt through from the bottom. I like it this way better because then any kind of water or stuff doesn't sit and work its way down in, hopefully. So, all right. So I'm going to get these snugged up. The little J-clip style nut into there. And this one tightened up as well. And then we'll get the camera going again. So these bolts are all tightened up. This one torques to 200 foot-pounds, which I did. This one torques to 74 foot-pounds, which I did. I put a little bit of blue Loctite on those ones. And then these two under here, you can see it tightened up pretty good. The torque spec on these two is 24 foot-pounds. I promise mine are tighter than that. They're a 3/8 grade 8 bolt. So I just cranked them down to what I felt was appropriate to that. I'm going to say probably 35 or 40 foot-pounds, but those are snug, and I did not actually put any Loctite on them. So now it's time to put the track bar in. So with the truck in the air, I've got the track bar, the new one, mounted. I start that side first. I do not tighten it until we've got the truck down at ride height. This one, the axle will come forward as it comes down, so that should be all right. It is a little farther forward than what I really love. It'd really like to be about here when this bracket puts it forward, which I guess it has to because the other mount's in the way. So anyway, I've got that one. I'm gonna drop the truck down, start the other one. I'm gonna put blue Loctite on both of these, and then I'll show you. This part actually really sucks to do. Kind of what I do is vary the height up and down until I get it to where this is correct with how it's sitting. So as you raise it, it's going to move the pivot point side to side. So as it comes down and I start to put weight on it, I'll find the spot where it goes in nicely. So I ended up finding a spot getting this into place. It did not go in super easy. This alignment, if you've never done one before, is a bit of a nightmare, but you'll figure it out. It's not that bad. So yeah, got that set, got that in. Whenever you tighten any type of rubber suspension bushings, which is what this is, you want the vehicle to be sitting at ride height. So what I did is I dropped this thing down, I set it totally on the ground, got on my fine creeper there, and torqued these down. This upper bolt they want at 145, the lower one is 125. So those are torqued, ready to go. I'm probably gonna need to readjust my steering wheel, which is this right here. On the style of setup that I've got, it will not affect my toe whatsoever. So I'll just be able to use this sleeve to adjust the steering wheel, and that'll be it. I do have some slight concerns with this system. What you want to have this type, your steering work without bump steer and just drive super nice, is you want this, which is your tie rod, or drag link, I guess is probably the more appropriate term for this, and your track bar, which is right behind it, to be at the exact same motion up and down. So as the axle goes up and down with bumps, the steering does not turn. Just kind of glancing at it, from the pivot point here to the track bar mount here, I'm going to say I have probably 4.5 inches with the wheel straight ahead. And over here from the pitman arm to here, I'm going to say I have probably 7.5, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 8 or 9. I'm going to go 7.5. I'm sticking with it. I didn't measure any of these. These are just off the cuff measurements, which means that the track bar is probably about 3 inches longer than the tie rod or drag link bar. That's going to cause some things to change as it cycles up and down. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Honestly, I think this Synergy mount would work better with the factory Y style steering, because then it would go from here all the way over. And I'm going to say that would actually make it a little bit longer than the track bar though. So maybe not. Maybe this is fine. We'll find out, I guess, as I drive it. I definitely like this style bushing way better than the factory ball and socket on a second gen. So yeah. And also when I had this thing on the ground full weight, this off-road track bar with the lift that this truck has seems to be almost perfect. It's definitely good enough that I'm happy with it. So that said, I think I'm gonna go drive this truck, and yeah, I guess that's it. I just got back from my test drive with this truck. The steering wheel is definitely off, like way worse than it was before. So I'll have to lengthen that tie rod or drag link to make it straighten up the steering wheel. But this truck drives so much better than it drove on its way into the shop that it's unreal. So I have done the steering upgrade. Really that's it. The steering style upgrade, the longer control arms, but that was just to kind of make up for the fact that it's got a little bit of a budget lift on it. And now this track bar upgrade, and this track bar upgrade is it's unreal. I mean, granted, the other one I'm sure was wore out. I still haven't watched that video yet, but I'm certain there was some movement there, and if not, there definitely was something going on the road, because this thing drives way better than it did on the way in here. So yeah, so that's it. I've got probably like $500 wrapped up into this right now. If there's one thing I would probably do a little bit different, I would maybe make a weld, like a 1/2 inch thick plate, because that's about how far that bracket was away from the engine cross member. I would drill and tap a 1/2 inch plate rather than running the bolts all the way through, and then I would weld that on. I would drill and tap it, center punch those holes, drill behind them a little bit bigger, weld that on so it'd be a good spot. There's also brackets that it comes with that would make it a weld on. So that's these, and that would also be another option. That is really the only spot I'm not real happy with, is the 2 bolts that come through the engine cross member and pick that up. Maybe I'll do something with it later, but honestly, as long as I drive it for a little bit and it seems like it doesn't move, I probably won't. It's probably not a big deal. That's probably just me being picky. But if there was one thing, that would be it. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but some of these trucks have a track bar brace from the frame to that ball and socket point. If your truck has one of those, you're gonna have to grind that off. As far as the half tons go, I know for sure the off-road edition half tons have them, and I'm really not sure what the 3/4 and diesel crowd looks like as far as when they got that brace and when they didn't. This truck being a 98 gas, it does, and a 1500, it does not have that brace. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you later.